Welcome to CharityVillage Connects. I'm Mary Barrell. Hot off the presses is the 8th edition of the Giving Report, published by CanadaHelps. In the 2025 edition, CanadaHelps looks at the time period of 2018 to 2024 to understand how giving has evolved during a period shaped by crisis and transformation. The COVID-19 pandemic and a series of major national and global disruptions have influenced how Canadians give and which causes receive support. They also emphasize how important it is for charities to innovate and be flexible in an age of massive change and challenges. To help us get an understanding of the key findings of the 2025 Giving Report, please welcome Samantha Cooke, Vice President of Philanthropy at the Daily Bread Food Bank. Since 1983, Daily Bread Food Bank has worked to meet emergency needs while advocating for long-term solutions to end poverty with over 200 programs across Toronto. Through research and advocacy, Daily Bread Food Bank advocates for everyone's right to food, collaborating with stakeholders across the sector for meaningful policy changes to alleviate food insecurity and poverty. Welcome to the podcast, Samantha.
Thanks, Mary. Really pleased to be here.
Well, I wonder if you could kick things off by sharing something that jumped out at you from this year's CanadaHelps Giving Report. Was there a particular surprising or insightful finding that you'd like to point to our listeners to?
Yeah, there was lots of insights that jumped out to me this time around. I would say the one that I was most excited about was the increase in local and regional giving. Obviously, I'm excited because I serve the local community here in Toronto. So I like that insight, but also I felt like it gave insight to all of us, whether we're a national organization, provincial or municipal in scope. It gave us the opportunity to engage in philanthropy that feels more personal, more accountable to donors and directly connected to the communities where donors live and work. And I think that the pandemic really highlighted community interdependence and local vulnerabilities. And I think it brought people together and influenced people to prioritize strengthening their immediate neighborhoods through their charitable support. So I felt that gave us some good takeaways for what we could do differently and how we could maybe focus more on community-centered impact that we're having so that people get to see and witness the impact that they can have in their communities and literally at Daily Bread roll up their sleeves to help their neighbors. It also helped with economic resilience. So being able to showcase how the money stays within that community's ecosystem and supporting local services that we can support residents with. And then one that's not new, but one that we continue to need to do well in is that trust and transparency. So making sure that donors can really see how their contributions were used and we can provide more accountability and direct communication about their impact and just generally reinforcing the good decisions that they made about supporting us.
Well, the CanadaHelps Giving Report found that average donations on CanadaHelps rose 10% in 2024 and 13% in the first 2 months of 2025. The report indicates this could be related to external factors such as the Canada Post strike and the extension of the tax deadline for charitable giving. What did you notice at Daily Bread? Was this your experience, and do you think there might be a trend to follow here?
At Daily Bread, we also saw growth in 2024 over the prior year, and we saw a boost in those first 2 months of 2025 as well. I think there was some likely trickle through donations that were caught in the mail strike in November and December, but more so for us, it was the continuation of a rebate campaign that we started in the fall of 2024. We were appealing to potential donors and existing supporters to donate their $200 provincial rebate that they received from the government. And that campaign generated hundreds of thousands of dollars for us. It also attracted about 15% of the donors were new to us. So it helped attract new donors as well as activate and reactivate lapsed donors. So I think versus the trend, I think what I would like organizations like us to do is think when you can of creative campaigns that could be generated quickly. So when we heard about the mail strike, when we heard about the rebate, we really kicked into action some of the things that could help generate support in different ways. Last week, I had the pleasure of meeting the CEO of CanadaHelps, Duke, and he mentioned he had a really good analogy about performance athletes, one being a hockey goalie and the other one being a gymnast, and how they are equally matched when it comes to discipline and training and muscle memory and all of those things. But what I liked about this rebate campaign, and likening it to that analogy, is that we were taking the hockey goalie analogy and being really flexible and ready and able to kick in something into gear that could really help us maximize on an opportunity or a roadblock that was coming. So I really liked that. Be ready for new plays whenever they happen.
Well, that's a great example of learning to be more innovative and responding to these immediate needs that we talked about in the introduction. Now, the other aspect of this report findings is that while the report acknowledges that more Canadians are giving to charities based on tax filer data, this is due to population growth and not a greater rate of Canadians making charitable donations and claiming them on their taxes. Can you talk about the importance of growing the donor base in Canada and some steps that Daily Bread is taking to do this?
This was definitely a takeaway that resonated with us. At Daily Bread, we've seen donation revenue increasing over the past 5 to 7 years, but the donor base itself has remained pretty flat after COVID. And I think what we're doing well and what organizations should really focus in on is making sure that you are doing a good job of retaining and migrating those annual donors up into your monthly giving programs, your mid-level, your major giving programs. And even attracting donors. At Daily Bread, we've been grateful to attract some new higher net worth donors. So we've seen major giving actually surpass pandemic levels, which is great. But the revenue growth has been due to that increase in gift frequency that we've been able to generate and the increase in average gift. So our average gift has gone up from 518 5 years ago to 729. That's wonderful, but like this trend shows, it's all to do with gift frequency and average gift and not through growth. So I think it's really important that charities do take this trend away, and if they're seeing it, think about ways that it's not just about growing not just the gifts, but growing the base itself. And there's lots of things that we're doing to acquire new donors, to offset that inevitable churn and that upward migration that we talked about. Would you like me to go into a few of the examples that we're doing?
Be wonderful. Thank you.
Wonderful. So we're investing more in digital. I try to think of retention as a leaky bucket. I'm sure that's something that's very well known in the sector. But I also think about the funnel as well, at the top, which is really bringing in those followers, those people that are engaging with you, and bringing them down that funnel into that unfortunately leaky bucket. So we're really doing more to pull more people into the top of the funnel. And we actually know through our data that digital acquisitions actually deliver higher value donors for us. So they're on average, their long-term value is $69 higher than print acquired donors. So we're putting more funds into digital search. We're putting more funds into a relatively new Google product called PMax, which is a machine learning product that really is like a set it and play. It will run for you and maximize your campaigns across a variety of different platforms. So we tested that and we're rolling that out. We're going to continue to invest in digital lead generation. So over the years, we've tested different approaches, things like petitions, that type of thing. And now we're focusing in on a downloadable tool that you can download, and we will put you through a series of emails to encourage you to give financially at the end. We're also investing in large advocacy campaigns that's designed to activate, as you said at the beginning, people around advocacy, but it should also raise overall awareness about us and give us an opportunity for remarketing. And we're also looking at all of the leads that come in that don't yet give and developing a nurture email series that really encourages people to learn more about us and get more involved. And then our community fundraising program, which could look very different for different charities, but looks, like independent fundraising events or peer-to-peer events, that generates about half of our new donors, and they are notorious to retain because their relationship is with the fundraiser. So we're really trying to turn this into a bit of a focus on encouraging them to host a fundraiser themselves, self-donate, and then we can expand into their respective networks. There's a few more things that we're doing to try and attract younger audiences as well. Mary, I don't know if you've been on site here, but we have lots of hands-on activities. We encourage youth groups and schools to come on site. We're engaging with them through the curriculum. We have a toolkit that we use. We're encouraging them to do food drives. We partner with Purelator, for example, on a red bag campaign in schools. And we've also done a recent audit of our social channels to help us identify the channels that work for us and perhaps testing new ones like TikTok. We've just set up an account there, and we're going to be diving a little bit more into that and potentially testing a paid budget there as well.
Getting brave, going on TikTok. Good for you.
It's probably too late now.
Well, it's certainly an important part of the conversation around growing the donor base is related to finding better ways to engage youth, and you've given some great examples of that. And it's clearly going digital, as well as the in-person experiences that you talked about, to build better pipelines for donor and volunteer engagement. I'm curious, from your experience in doing those kinds of programs that have worked at Daily Bread, do you have any advice for organizations or strategies that you could share?
I think it's looking at a number of different ways that might appeal to different groups. So for us, schools or community groups, both on site here, but also off site in their own communities, like through food drives or in schools with, really good quality curriculum supports and activities. And again, through social channels, TikTok, Pinterest, that type of thing. And also thinking about the content. So we do many videos, and we're really trying to shorten them up so we can have them more use on social platforms. So shorter formed videos that can be used on our site and on emails, on YouTube, and in various social media channels.
Well, as well, you mentioned off the top about the kind of focus on community-based generosity and how that's increased, and how, as an organization such as yourself, that was encouraging. But what has Daily Bread learned about tapping into that community-based generosity, especially in a city in Toronto with such diverse needs and such a diverse population? What have you learned that you could share with other nonprofits and charities across Canada?
What I would recommend is, if you are overly reliant on one form of fundraising, this is a good time, especially locally, if you could really think about ways that you might diversify your fundraising activities. So for at Daily Bread here, we have a very robust annual monthly giving program. We also do some community fundraising. We have a mid-level major gift program and a corporate fundraising program. And so what I like about that is we have a number of different ways that you can get involved, either individually by yourself or as a community group or through your workplace, through a workplace campaign. So if one of those areas does struggle, especially with the ongoing, economic uncertainty we've got, there are other ways that we can rely on funding as demand increases. So I think it's about having a really well-rounded portfolio of activity that could appeal to different communities, sub-communities within the neighborhoods that you serve.
Well, some fundraising bright spots in the report relate to gifts of security, monthly giving, and Giving Tuesday. Could you talk about how organizations might work around these areas to improve their fundraising strategies?
Absolutely. I think organizations should work in gifts of securities, monthly giving, and Giving Tuesday into their fundraising mix if they haven't already. If you're a small but mighty shop, you could benefit by using someone like CanadaHelps to process those gifts. To offer monthly giving and drive people to support on or before Giving Tuesday. It's very worthwhile. If you're a bit more established, like we are at Daily Bread Food Bank, we make sure that we have the gifts of securities opportunity available on our website. It isn't difficult to have that in place, and we're seeing more and more donors using that as an option to help offset tax, which is really, really wonderful. The other thing I would say about monthly giving is providing people the opportunity at the time of their gift, when they're feeling most like this is, most compelled to give, providing them with a monthly giving option is always a good idea. And pledging, quite frankly. So if you've got a major donor that's coming to you, really, really compelled to give, ask them about ways to extend that support. So offer them monthly, offer them a pledge into the future so that you can really capitalize on how good they're feeling and the gift they're about to give, and see if you can't make it a longer term benefit for you.
So
And then you can spend the time stewarding them.
right. So that would be the time at which I've been asked to donate, for example. And in making that donation, it offers me the opportunity to become a monthly donor, for example.
Exactly. So one example I can give you about Daily Bread, a couple of years ago, online, you would have been given two options. One, you could choose to give a one-time gift, and you could choose to give a monthly gift. I didn't want people to have that choice. We've got seconds to attract them and to take them through this process. So then we moved to a platform that prioritized the upsell, and it upsold people. It offered that 2 or 3 times, even at the final stage, and it helped grow our monthly giving that year by 15%. And that's a 142% increase over 2020. And now we're sitting at over 8,000 monthly donors, which represents about 17% of our file, which is wonderful and still more to do. But just offering that as a not a choice, but an upsell option or something that is offered right then and there to help people make that decision.
Well, that's a great insight into how to use these digital tools in a better way. With continued economic uncertainty, and we're seeing more tariffs, for example, that threaten people's jobs, how are you adapting your messaging or stewardship to keep donors connected without overwhelming them with the need?
It can be overwhelming, especially when you're working in sectors like this, that we're helping people through harsh economic times. Each year, as a fundraising team and as an organization, we look at our cultivation and stewardship plans just to ensure that we've got a good cadence of communication and that we're using a mix of channels and types of content to keep it varied. And when it comes to cultivation and stewardship, I don't like that to be the place where we're asking them for the need. We really want to make sure that we're really focused on reporting back on the impact of those gifts. So I really try, we do not ask for donors when we're reporting back through either a stewardship report or a cultivation. So we do cultivation, we do emails, and we do 4 emails throughout the year, not again focused on an ask, but just really talking about what we're doing and the work that they're helping make possible. And then we have different types of stewardship, and it's flexible. So our major gift officers can take what they want from that and maybe personally deliver some of those elements, whereas our more mass program can deliver that en masse and really so it's having those tools and the cadence that could be flexible for use.
And what should nonprofits be doing now to weather potential fundraising challenges in the year ahead? Are there specific operational or fundraising shifts that you're already planning now? I mean, we're, as we've mentioned in this discussion, we're already seeing more tariffs and other, certainly threats to employment that leads to poverty that then, of course, kicks into a great need for your services. How are you dealing with that when you can sort of see it looming in the future?
Yeah, and I want to go back to Duke's analogy because something I started here at Daily Bread 5 years ago, and we have weathered many waves and many storms, more than I can ever remember in my entire working life. And so that analogy of operating like a hockey goalie together as a team, I think is really important for us to keep in mind. We have to be ready for whatever comes our way. We have to lean into the initiatives and channels that are working for us, and frankly, leave the ones that aren't working for us aside. I don't know if any of the listeners or viewers experienced dropping some of their fundraising programs during COVID because they couldn't do them for on-site reasons, or maybe they just didn't work anymore and we were okay, we let them go. And so I just think during this time and in the future, we need to lean on what's working, leave what's not working aside. And then again, for me, that was shifting to digital, doing more investment in digital, knowing that we can acquire higher value donors that way, shifting investment when it makes sense. So if you're tracking your data, you're tracking your results, making those shifts. So being a little bit more nimble, just like a hockey goalie would be. We've had to do that even through things like I mentioned, the Canada Post labor dispute. Our mail had already gone out. So what are we going to do? We increased our digital search spend. We sent more emails. We acknowledged that issue. We kept our donors informed. And then, so it's about being ready for anything that's coming your way.
And in closing, I wonder as we wrap up, if you could share one piece of practical fundraising advice with our listeners, especially those navigating their increased demand with limited resources. What would it be?
I think a couple of things. We are bracing for more uncertainty. It's a certain thing. We've got the US tariffs, the geopolitical tensions. It's going to strain households. It's going to strain their budgets. It's going to strain their cost of living. It's going to increase the demand for services, especially food banking and other charitable services as well. So again, I would just focus on the tools that are working for you and how you might enhance them, lean into them, and also reach out to your sector colleagues. We had an event last week where there were so many wonderful people in the room. We shouldn't be siloed. Let's talk to each other. Let's support each other, share ideas. share what we're seeing. And this report is a great example of that, bringing people together, talking about trends, and seeing how we might lean into the things that are working. So that would be my advice.
Well, at Charity Village, we always look forward to the incredible insights on the sector that CanadaHelps Giving Report provides. And we really appreciate you sharing Daily Bread's experiences and your thoughts and advice for charities across Canada navigating these challenging and changing times. Thank you for joining Charity Village Connects.
Thanks, Mary.